So when approaching treating brain injury or concussion, there are a couple big pathogenic factors that can often be in play that are well worth being familiar with, so that should they be there, they can be addressed appropriately. These can definitely inhibit the pace of treatment if they're not addressed. So knowing how to look for them and then addressing them can allow for that healing process to occur without those things kind of lingering and holding things up. So let's get into it. The three factors that we're going to get into are blood stasis, wind, and phlegm. First one we're going to get into is blood stasis. So we've got the engorged sublingual veins there, which is, of course, a very common indicator that we always want to check when doing tongue diagnosis. Not only looking at the top of the tongue, but take a look at the bottom of the tongue, see if they've got those engorged sublingual veins. Blood stasis is, of course, a stagnation of blood, and with the qi moves blood, with blood moves qi. So it's a stagnation condition that can really hold things up. And given the nature of a lot of brain injuries and the trauma involved in that, blood stasis can often be a component that needs to be addressed, either systemically or locally in the area of the trauma. So you can get local blood stasis in whatever area the brain was affected. You can get blood stasis in the collaterals, which when relating to the brain, you're talking about all the blood vessels through the brain and microcirculation through the brain, as well as flow through the blood-brain barrier. So blood stasis as a whole refers to a range of conditions where blood flow is slowed down or blocked in some way. This can either be systemic that we talked about or local. It can affect a particular type of tissue. It can affect a particular organ system. It can affect a region or the collaterals. So any minor blockage of blood flow can lead to consequences wherein nutrients and oxygen become decreased to any or all tissues. Blood pressure can fluctuate. You can have problems with vascular transport, and it can cause dysregulation hormonally. So, as well as the elimination of waste materials, which is a particular component if the brain has been affected. And as we talked about, the brain is described as the cleanest organ, the organ which needs to remain the cleanest. And as a result, anything that does get in there needs to be flushed out and taken care of. So here's a long list of blood stasis symptoms that will often come along with or can be components of blood stasis. One of the key ones is, of course, stabbing pain, and this is usually in a fixed location, so it's usually a local pain that doesn't move around too much. Blood stasis can be an itchiness under the skin. You can have local numbness as a result of blood stasis, feeling of pressure or tension in the head, the eyes, the breast, or the limbs. You can have a fullness in the epigastrium. You can have stiffness of the limbs, so if the blood is not nourishing the muscles properly, you can end up with stiffness, rigidity, paralysis if it's severe. Any type of blood loss can lead to blood stasis. Bruises, hemophagia, nosebleeds, heavy menstruation, anything that involves a fair amount of bleeding under the surface or bleeding itself can all cause or play into blood stasis. People can also develop a dry mouth or a desire to drink. They may have dark hair or dry hair or skin, easily woken up at night, or terrors with profuse dreams. So sleep can be affected as a result of blood stasis. Poor memory, difficulty concentrating. People can become easily irritated. Very strong emotions can arise. And again, we had talked about at the very beginning, irritation being one of those key indicators for the severity of an injury as far as how that plays out long term, and getting in and assessing that so that you can kind of gauge the severity of the condition. Objectively, with blood stasis, you can often see the person will have a dark complexion. The lips or the tongue will become dark, those sublingual veins. You can get dark rings under the eyes, bluish fingernails. You can check for the Oketsu sign if you're familiar with Kiko Matsumoto's work, and abdominal diagnosis, and palpating just to the side of the navel, looking for that Oketsu sign. If that's in there, that can be used as an indicator that blood stasis is a component and needs to be addressed. You may find macules on the tongue. You get those sublingual veins, and you may find spider veins or distended veins along the body. Pulse-wise, you're looking at typically seeing a choppy pulse, and so it's going to be uneven and very erratic in nature. I'm going to move this a little bit closer and see if that helps on that reverb component or that distortion. Hopefully that doesn't make it too loud. We can kind of move on here. So if blood stasis is a component, there are a number of formulas and treatment protocols, patterns that fall specifically into addressing blood stasis. So we'll go ahead and cover those. We'll do the same thing with phlegm. And from there, you can use that to inform back into your primary pattern differentiation. Blood stasis is the primary pattern, or the primary component that needs to be addressed. If you need to clear that out of the way before addressing anything else, then you can go ahead and take these approaches. A lot of the time, you're looking at an overlap. So go ahead and go through this. All right, so if you've got blood stasis, but you also have a chi stagnation component, you're going to see stabbing pains, a feeling of oppression in the chest, palpitations, depression, insomnia, frequent anger, or other emotional factors that may be playing in there. So with that, of course, you want to invigorate blood, so you want to initiate blood movement. You also want to move chi. So treatment-wise, acupuncture-wise, you can use stomach 36, bladder 15, bladder 17, spleen 10, pericardium 6, liver 3, liver 14, large intestine 4, and CV 17. That will open up that chest and move qi very strongly. The herbal formula for that is Juefu Shuyutang, and I did include the ingredients in there as well, so you're welcome to look that over. On the other hand, if it's less qi stagnation and it's more of a qi deficiency pattern, they're going to have the basic blood stasis pattern symptoms, but they're also going to have weakness, tiredness, a shortness of breath, paralysis may be more of a component, and chest pain, lack of appetite, so the spleen function is not there, and so not wanting to eat too much. And so instead of moving qi, you want to invigorate the blood and tonify the qi in this case. So Buyang Huan Wu Tang is the formula that you would typically use. This is a great formula. We'll touch on it again later too, but it's often used for post-stroke. And often, here I've got 20 grams of Huang Qi, but a lot of the times it's 20 to 100 grams. It can be a very large dose of Huang Qi to really boost that primal Qi, to allow somebody to really bounce back as much as possible. So the acupuncture treatment is stomach 36, spleen 6, liver 8, spleen 10, bladder 17 for the blood, bladder 20 for the spleen, bladder 21, CV4, CV6 to really help tonify that Huang Qi as much as possible.